Damn. Felt like StreamYard was like, bro, you're not getting this podcast cast off. Like, damn, what'd I do to you? Sheesh. Figured it out. I had to do some real hood stuff, but we'll get to the bottom of that later. But your man Louie T back behind the mic where I belong. Tuesday, October 17th, week 6 officially in the books. Big win for the Cowboys last night. Week 6 to me was all about the red zone. There's some red zone woes going on in the NFL right now. No more undefeated teams. 72 Dolphins, go ahead, pop that champagne. You did it again. They did it again. And so we're off and running. LouieTeeNetwork podcast starts now. The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 368th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Got a number of topics to chop it up with you guys about today. So let's not delay. Let's get right to the proceedings this evening. We kick it off with the Gem Droppin Session. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind. Let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. And I had so many different topics I wanted to jump in with you guys today. And time's just not going to permit. So we'll have to find another day to have some of those conversations if I don't forget. This is the problem. I like to talk about things while it's on my brain because I'm very forgetful and I probably won't remember the next time we meet. That's how these things go. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump into what I wanted to talk about during this particular Gem Droppin Session. And that's the red zone. Man, you know, I think scoring's down this year. I look, don't quote me on that. Okay. But just me using my spy eye, right? To the naked eye, just watching these games, I think scoring's down this year. And I think a huge part of the reason why is because teams are struggling in the red zone. Now, I've got a number of different theories on that. Now, let me just start with this because sometimes numbers can be misleading. People tell you women lie, men lie, numbers don't. That's a lie, okay? Because you can make numbers say whatever the hell you want them to say. So, like, for instance, when you get into the red zone and let's say on 3rd down and 8 from the 24-yard line, you complete a 6-yard pass to the 18, and now it's 4th and 2. The NFL is going to count that as a trip into the red zone, and you failed because you're settling for a field goal. Did you really get in the red zone, though? Your drive ended in the red zone, but did you really? Like, to me, it shouldn't count against your red zone stats unless you have a 1st and 10 or a 1st and goal inside the red zone. Then you don't get in. Then you can count it as a missed opportunity. But you can't fault me for, you know, my drive. This set of down starting at the 28. I gained 8 yards. My drive ends at the 20, but you count that as a failed red zone. I didn't even take a snap other than the field goal attempt from the red zone. That's garbage. But that's why I said you have to be cognizant. But I'm watching these games. I'm seeing teams get inside the 10-yard line to the 8, to the 6, to the 1, and not get in. So yesterday was really alarming. The Cowboys have struggled all season long in the red zone. That's well documented. The Raiders went 1 of 6 in the red zone yesterday. How they won the game, I guess if they were playing anybody but New England, they probably don't win that game. You can't go 1 of 6 in the red zone and win in this league. But they did. Miraculously enough, they did. The Seahawks went 1 of 5 in their loss, 17-13 to the Cincinnati Bengals. Not going to win very many games, going 1 for 5 in the red zone. And I think 2 or 3 of those 5 that they didn't get, the 4 that they didn't get rather, were turnovers, or they went for it on 4th down and didn't get it. So it's not like they were getting field goals out of the mix. They weren't even getting points out of these situations. That's why they lost the game, right? Both the Lions and the Bucks in that ball game went 0 of 2 in the red zone. So you see where I'm going with this. You know, the Jets, I think they were 1 of 4 in the red zone. How they won the game? Well, we know how they won the game. They didn't turn it over, and the Eagles turned it over 4 times. That's how they won the game. But still, it's tough to win in this league when you can't punch it in the red zone. And a lot of teams are struggling in the red zone. And here's my thought process on this. Not all of these are, 4th and 1 situations, 4th and 2. Some of them are 4th and 4, and teams are electing to go for it, et cetera, et cetera. But I also see a lot of short yardage situations where teams fail. And for instance, the Cardinals went for it on 4th and 1. And I think Joshua Dobbs threw a 40-yard pass, a 30-yard pass. The Carolina Panthers on 4th and 1, chucked it, Bryce Young chucked it 45 yards down the field, and it was incomplete. And I'm just thinking about the sissification of the NFL and how teams are moving away from running the football. Like 4th and 1 has become a passing down. Like what bizarro world do we live in where 4th and 1 is a passing down? Look at the NFL. Look at, other than the Philadelphia Eagles and the brotherly shove, if it's not 4th and inches, teams aren't lining up and saying, stop me on 4th down and 1. They're throwing the football on 4th and 1. A lot of teams get in the gun in 4th and 1 situations. It's insane right now how the league is set up. And when I started watching football as a kid, there was no way you were throwing the ball on 4th and 1. And it's just over time changed. And we know that this league is ever evolving and things change and trends come and go. But this is an alarming trend to me. The inability to just line up and run the football in obvious run situations. I think it's costing a lot of teams in the red zone. That, and then I think there's a lack of creativity once you get into close quarters. It's easy when you've got a ton of space to maneuver. I think a lot of teams are struggling right now with the inability to be able to scheme it up in the red zone. And I've been an advocate of this. I think teams make it a lot harder than what it really needs to be. I honestly, truly believe that it's not X's and O's, it's Jimmy and Joe's when you get down inside the 10-yard line or so. You should be looking for your best players. And a lot of times now we see in the NFL, the best players in the league, especially at the receiver position, they don't have a lot of receiving touchdowns. The guys with 1,800 yards receiving, but he's only got 5 touchdowns, 6, 7 touchdowns. You get that many receiving yards, you should have 15, 16 receiving touchdowns on the season. And it's because teams are going away from those guys. And got to give the defense credit. They're trying to take those guys away in the red zone. Well, use those guys as decoys to get other guys involved and open and get them the football. What happened to the days of having a 6'5" tight end and just saying, I'm going to throw up a fade ball and see if you can do anything about it? I mean, the advent of the back shoulder fade, I thought, helped teams in the red zone. We're not even seeing a lot of those even attempted anymore. That old back shoulder fade in the end zone. I struggle with the inability of teams to punch the football into the end zone. That's part of the reason you've seen the downtick in points. But I think you're seeing teams lose football games literally in the red zone. I think the poster child for that on Sunday was the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, you can't get in the red zone that many times, come away with nothing that many times, and expect to win the football game. Also got to credit that Cincinnati Bengals defense. They've been the linchpin that's held that Bengals team together this season. Without that defense, they'd be winless on the season right now. That said, let's get to Slate Skatin. Y'all know what it is. Put your skates on. Let's head around the block a bit, see what the NFL had to offer in week number 6 in the National Football League. We start over in London, the final London game of the season, as the Baltimore Ravens take care of the Tennessee Titans 24-16. Ryan Tannehill went down in this game. I don't think it would have made much of a difference. This game was really sloppy, though. A lot of mistakes on both sides. Speaking of red zone efficiency, I think this might have been another game where the Ravens were 1 of 6 in the red zone. Let me repeat myself. The Ravens were 1 of 6. How did they win the game? Because the Titans were 1 of 4 in the red zone. Red zone efficiency has to be at its worst this season. That's my guess. If I'm a betting man, I'm putting my money on red zone efficiency being the lowest it's ever been through the first 6 weeks of the season since that stat was kept. That's my guess. And I'm sticking to it. Somebody prove me wrong. Somebody tell me, no, actually, Louie T, the worst start through 6 weeks for the red zone across the league was in 2017. Well, until somebody tells me that, I'm believing it's this year. I mean, this is ridiculous, right? And you watch this game, Baltimore was consistently moving the football, getting into the red zone, and not being able to score. And I almost looked at their efficiency or lack thereof in the red zone, and I said, you don't trust Lamar to throw the football? There were a lot of quarterback design runs once they got inside the 10-yard line, as if Lamar is some kind of baby and he can't throw the football. Like, what are you doing, dude? Let Lamar throw the football. This was ridiculous. I'd venture to say they had, I'll say, 16 red zone snaps. Lamar ran on 7 of those 16 snaps. Like, what are we talking about here? And these weren't like play breaks down. He was dropping back, a little bit of pressure. He escapes and takes off. These are designed Lamar Jackson runs as if he can't throw the football. It was weird. It was weird to me. But when it's all said and done, the Tennessee Titans, they're just not a good football team, you know? And because they just don't have enough talent. That's what it all boils down to for the Titans. They're well coached with Mike Vrabel, and they're going to fight tooth and nail. They don't have enough talent, do the Tennessee Titans. And on top of that, you got Derrick Henry with 12 carries. He had 97 yards. There was a 63-yarder in there, okay? So let's not act like he was consistently gashing them for 8 and 6 and 4 and 1 and then 8 again. There was a 63-yarder in there, but Derrick Henry shouldn't have just 12 carries. He's the heartbeat of your football team, if you ask me. And when they were at their best in this game, Henry got into a rhythm. He scored the one that rushing touchdown that put them back into the game. I thought they needed to feed him and feature him a little bit more, but that's nor here nor there. Like I said, Tannehill went down in this game, and the Titans are now 2-4. They're not a good football team. And luckily enough for them, they play in a bad division. They're going to win some more games, but Ryan Tannehill is going to be out for at least the next 2 to 4 weeks. I don't think they're going to put him on IR, but I'm more interested in seeing what Malik Willis can do. At this point, if you're a Titans fan, it's really just about figuring out if Malik Willis and or Will Levis is the answer, or do you need to look elsewhere? And it's going to be tough to figure that out. I think you may be able to get a glimpse into whether Malik Willis is, but I think it's too early to figure out if Will Levis can do it or not. You know, even if he were to take every single snap from here on out, I still think the sample size would be too small for you to be able to make a definitive determination unless he just absolutely sucks, right? So I think Malik Willis is going to get the next shot at it, and I want to see what he does, honestly. But the Ravens win. The Ravens, I don't trust them. They should be 6-0 right now. They're 4-2, and this even this game wasn't a masterpiece from them. There's a lot fundamentally wrong with the Baltimore Ravens, but they're finding ways to win. But these are games they should be winning. These are games that they shouldn't even be close in, and they shouldn't have lost the 2 that they did lose. They were heavy favorites in both of the games that they lost this season. I just don't know what to make of the Baltimore Ravens right now. You know, they go on the road, they beat Cincinnati. That was a big win. But then you come home and you lose to, Indianapolis. Like, I just don't know what to make of the Ravens right now. They're an enigma, but they find a way to win over in London, 24-16. They're 4-2. The Titans are the inverse at 2-4, and those two teams are probably heading in different directions. That's probably an understatement. Seahawks, Bengals, speaking of which, I talked about this already. What a stinker of a game for the Seattle Seahawks. They lose this game 17-13. Cincinnati's another team where they're not good right now. Like literally their defense is good. Their offense is not, and they're being carried right now by their defense. You know, Lou Almirono and that group over there are doing a phenomenal job of keeping this team together. After the 0-3 start, they've rattled off 3 in a row, and it hasn't been because of the offense. Sans for last week against Arizona when Burrow and Jamar Chase had a coming out party, but they went right back to being who they were the previous 5 weeks or 4 weeks prior to that Cardinals game. Joe Burrow, 24 of 35, $185, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Joe Mixon, 12 carries, 38 yards. I mean, there was really no synchronicity or cohesion offensively for them in this game. And the Seahawks lived in Bengals territory throughout the course of this game. I'm anxious to see how many snaps offensively. Yeah, Seattle had 70 snaps in this game compared to 53 for the Bengals. They dominated this game, really, Seattle did. They had no business losing this game. But as I mentioned, the Bengals went 2 of 2 in the red zone. And the Seahawks went 1 of 5 in the red zone, including going for it on 4th down twice and coming up short both times. And I think Geno Smith also might have had an interception, I think, in the red zone as well. So it was a house of horrors. Geno Smith, 27 of 41, 323, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He was sacked 4 times. And in the red zone, he was abysmal. Geno Smith was. And so Seattle, if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan, you're kicking yourself because you just let one slip through your fingers. You had no business losing that ball game. And instead of you being 4-1 right now, and right there now with the 49ers losing to the Browns and being just a half game behind them in the standings, you're now 3-2, and you're lamenting an opportunity and lost, a missed opportunity. If you're Cincinnati, you can't survive like this. You can't keep leaning on your defense. They did the same thing to the Rams in the red zone on that Monday night game, if you guys recall, when the Rams were moving the ball all game long, but they just couldn't find the end zone, and Cincinnati was able to hold on and win that game. They did the exact same thing here. That red zone defense was phenomenal, but at some point, that dam is going to break, okay? Cincinnati's going to have to find offense somewhere, and right now they are struggling. And that's an understatement, but they do get the win 17-13. They are 3-3, back to 500 after the 0-3 start. They've hit the reset button. Now let's see what they do as they finally scratch and claw their way back to 500. If you're Seattle coming off of a bye week, that's a lackluster performance that you've got to be kicking yourself over. You're now 3-2. Colts, Jaguars, AFC South family business. You know how to family do it. This one was pretty lopsided from the jump. Jaguars defense really got after Gardner Minshew, who had been taking care of the football. And I think you guys have already heard that the likelihood is this is Gardner Minshew's show for the rest of the season as their rookie quarterback, Anthony Richardson, probably going to require season-ending surgery that will end his season. That's what it's looking like right now. So it looks like Gardner Minshew is going to be at the helm for the remainder of the season, which I think the Colts are pretty comfortable with. However, he hadn't turned it over heading into this game. He was clean, and that's why they had won games that he had played in last week against the Titans, against the Ravens when he started. But that was not the case in this game. He threw 2 interceptions. He fumbled the football. It allowed Jacksonville to get out to a quick, fast start. Lawrence was locked in. But I think the story of Jacksonville right now is I think this is what I expected from Travis Etienne when he came into the league. He's starting to play at that level, and Minshew threw 3 picks, not 2, and he fumbled. So 4 turnovers from Minshew when he hadn't turned it over all year. It kind of felt like that Joshua Dobbs game last week against Cincinnati. Dobbs hadn't turned it over a single time all season long, and then he explodes for like 3 or 4 turnovers by himself. That's kind of what this game was for Gardner Minshew. And that's what you expect from quarterbacks like Dobbs and Minshew. Eventually, they're going to have a stinker. But Travis Etienne is really starting to turn it up. He had 2 rushing touchdowns today. They're getting him the ball out of the backfield as a receiver too. And I think he is starting to really unlock this Jaguars offense, because if you got to focus in on Etienne and what he's able to do in the run game, it's going to open up, a lot of opportunities for guys down the field. And I think you're seeing Trevor Lawrence start to be able to lock in and get guys the football. 37-20. Jacksonville's another one of these interesting teams. They've had some bad losses this season at home to Houston, even though we realize Houston's much better than we gave them credit for. But still, that's a bad loss at home. But beating Buffalo last week, taking care of Indy, who was playing good football. Both of these teams were 3-2 heading into this game, taking care of business there. If you're Jacksonville, that's a good sign. They're now 4-2, and they're playing some good football. Jacksonville quietly, I think, is a little bit under the radar because of the slow start to the season. But I think this is a Jaguars team that is very, very interesting. And they're well coached. They got a ton of talent. I think they play better defense than people give them credit for. And I think this is a dangerous Jacksonville team. They just got to make sure they continue to take care of business within the division. It's a bad division. They've got to find a way to navigate it. Losing to Houston at home, not a good sign, but they've swept Indy, all right? They've already taken care of the Colts twice this season. They've yet to see Tennessee. They've got to take care of the Titans are not a good football team. You've got to beat Tennessee, not once, but twice. And then when you see Houston again in Houston, you need to take care of business there as well. If you're the Jacksonville Jaguars, they get the win 37-20, dominate the Colts. This was never a close ball game. This was always a beatdown in Duval. Commanders and Falcons. Falcons fall to 3-3 on the season. Commanders get back to 500 on the season with the 24-16 victory. Both teams, as I mentioned, leave the game at 3-3. This game was all about the two young quarterbacks. Washington's 2022 fifth round pick versus Atlanta's third round 2022 pick. Washington's 2022 fifth round pick threw 3 touchdown passes and no interceptions. Atlanta's 2022 third round pick, Desmond Ridder, threw 3 interceptions and 1 touchdown. And that was the difference in the game. Is the Falcons turned it over. They went for it on 4th down 3 times. They came up short twice. They had opportunities. Speaking of the red zone, I think both teams ended up being 2 of 4 in the red zone in this game, 2 of 3. So red zone wasn't an issue in this game, particularly for the two teams. But Ridder did have a very bad red zone interception that he threw on a 1st down, no less. So Ridder was really bad in this game. And that really was the difference. Washington got off to a fast start. Sam Howell was locked in, a career high 3 touchdown passes, as I mentioned, but they really didn't do much offensively in the second half, and they really leaned heavily on their defense to preserve the victory. And that's what they were able to do by forcing turnovers of Desmond Ridder. And so Washington avenges that ugly, or I guess you could say, gets that nasty, bitter taste out of their mouth of that loss last week to the previously winless Chicago Bears, and gets back in the win column after losing 3 straight, are now 3-3 with that 24-16 victory. And the Falcons suffer their first home defeat of the season. And it's Desmond Ridder's first loss in 32 games dating back to college at home. He was undefeated in college at the University of Cincinnati. He was undefeated at home with these Atlanta Falcons. That streak has now been snapped, and the Falcons are now 3-3. Dolphins hosting the Panthers. This was an interesting game because I was wondering what the hell's going on, because I didn't put this on. I had 4 games in front of me. I had 6 games in front of me, 4 on the TV, 2 on my computer screens in front of me. This was the only game in the 1 o'clock hour that I wasn't watching live, because I'm just thinking that Carolina is going to be destroyed. And probably 10 minutes into this game, it's 14-0 Carolina. I'm like, what in the hell is going on here? No worries. Order was restored fairly quickly. I blinked twice and it was 21-14, and then ultimately 35 unanswered points by the Dolphins in this game as Tyreek Hill started to assert himself. Raheem Mostert started to get busy, and that that phenomenal Dolphins offense with all of this speed everywhere started to go ape shit, and the Panthers simply did not have enough answers. They end up winning this game 42-21. They called off the dogs in this game, did the Dolphins, once they scored the 35 unanswered. They put Mike White in the game. He throws a pick six that, which made it look a little bit closer. Then they go right back down the field and get the touchdown back to make it 42-21. But this Dolphins offense is ridiculous, man. I mean, watching these guys fly around on this field and all the creativity. There was a play that their head coach called in this game where he sends the tight end in motion. Then he comes back across the field in that behind the quarterback motion. He runs out into the flats, and the running back follows him at the snap into the flats. The quarterback then fakes like he's going to, Tua fakes like he's looking left, then immediately throws the swing screen. It turned out to be a swing screen to the running back, Mostert, and the tight end that came across the field in motion is his lead blocker. He blocks the guy that came across the formation to cover Mostert, and Mostert walks into the end zone. I mean, it's that kind of creativity that is just next level that has separated the Dolphins from just about every other team in the NFL right now. Their creativity in the red zone, their ability to get mismatches and create motions that put the defense at a disadvantage has just been so much fun to watch this season. Mike McDaniel's on a whole nother level. Like, his brain is working at a capacity right now that it just is unmatched in the NFL right now. So it got shitty really fast. Shit got shitty quick in Miami after the slow start. They win 42-21 and advance to 5-1 on the season. Meanwhile, the Carolina Panthers remain the only winless team in the NFL. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Frank Reich, their head coach, had a hostage video on Wednesday. Then shortly thereafter, relinquished play calling duties to his offensive coordinator, Thomas Brown. I don't know if we're reading tea leaves here or if we're just making too much of a situation. Did he do that on his own? Was he punished for speaking out against the owner, essentially, and forced to give up play calling duties? Normally, when we start handing over responsibilities, that's the first step to your ass is about to be out the door. So it's too early for that. This is his first year. They knew there were going to be growing pains. Shit's a little fishy in Carolina right now. I'm not going to lie to you. We'll see how this goes. Keep your eye on that situation, though. Anyway, I digress. Vikings Bears. This was a snooze fest. Justin Fields ends up hurting his hand in this game. X-rays were negative, which is a great sign for him, but he is going to miss some time. So Tyson Bagent came into the game, and everybody got excited. He played really well in the preseason, if you recall. It allowed them to move on from PJ Walker, who coincidentally enough on this same day got a win against the previously undefeated San Francisco 49ers, which we'll talk about in a second, for them. But they brought in Tyson Bagent in this game, and he wasn't good. He did lead them on a touchdown drive at one point, but he also threw a bad pick at the end of the game when they were trying to go get the game-winning score. So I think he threw 2 picks in this game, including that soul crusher at the end. Nope, just one. Him and Fields both threw a pick. So the Bears scored 40 last week, and their magical peach, that their peach that turned into a magical carriage, that turned back into a peach on Sunday. They went back to being the lowly Bears, scored 13 points against a Vikings team that had been struggling. No Justin Jefferson. The Vikings find a way to get it done. It was not pretty at all, but they were able to create the turnovers, get the stops when they needed to. The Bears were 6 of 14 on third downs. Meanwhile, the Vikings were 2 of 13 on third downs. But at the end of the day, the Vikings turned it over only once. For the team leading the NFL in turnovers, they only turned it over once, and the Bears turned it over 3 times, and that was the difference in the game as the Vikings get their second win of the season. They're now 2-4. And the Bears dropped to 1-5 on the season. Speaking of Niners and Browns, one of the bigger upsets of the day, Cleveland, without their starting quarterback, Deshaun Watson, opt to go in a different direction. Remember, Watson missed the game prior to the bye against the Ravens. They went with rookie quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson. That was an epic fail. So coming off the bye week with no Deshaun Watson again, they opt this time to go with the veteran in PJ Walker. And he came in. It wasn't the cleanest performance, but as a backup, your job is to just find a way to help your team win. 18 of 34 for 192 and no touchdowns and 2 interceptions isn't the most dazzling day, but he did a really good job of finding ways to create opportunities for guys to get the ball in their hands. He extended some plays, avoided some sacks. He was only sacked twice against this vaunted 49ers front. And the run game, and we know this is what the Browns do, the run game was huge. Jerome Ford, who has turned into sort of this great feel-good story with, the injuries that the Browns have suffered at the running back position. 17 carries, 84 yards. Kareem Hunt, 12 carries, 47 yards. They manufactured a run game with Marquise Goodwin getting 1 carry for 20 yards. And Amari Cooper made an exceptional catch. One of those ones where I'm like, oh, goes up, climbs the ladder against 2 defenders, comes down with the football. He was outstanding in this game, was Amari Cooper. But even with all that said, the 49ers moved it down the field. Brock Purdy put them in a position to win this game, and their rookie kicker, Jake Moody, missed from, where was that field goal at? Let's see. Where was that field goal that he missed from? That field goal was missed from 41 yards. You have got to connect on that field goal. And the Browns hold on. And look, I'm going to tell you this right now. This Browns defense is legit. I've been talking about this Browns defense for most of the season. This is a really good unit. They banged up Christian McCaffrey in this game. He did not finish. They banged up Deebo Samuel. He did not finish. Brock Purdy, 12 of 27, 125, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He struggled gripping. I think he might have struggled gripping the ball. It was cold. It was wet. He didn't look like he had a good handle of the football. He missed a lot of throws we've seen him connect on in his sleep throughout to the start of his career. McCaffrey, 11 for 43. He had been tearing the league apart, and his streak of touchdowns is extended. He had a receiving touchdown in this game, but no rushing. But Brock Purdy suffers his first career regular season defeat. I think he had 14 straight starts of his career with victories in the regular season to start. But now that is done as the Browns knock off the previously undefeated San Francisco 49ers, 19-17. Let's take a look at the red zone for both teams here. Not too bad. 2 of 3 for the 49ers, 1 of 2 for the Browns. Just came down to a big miss there at the end. Texans hosting the Saints. I'm all but done with the Saints. You want to talk about enigmas. They're very frustrating. This offense just isn't what I thought it would be with Derek Carr at the helm. Carr puts up these insane numbers, it seems like, every other week. 32 of 50 for 353, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That's a lot of yards, but they're empty calories, right? There's no substance here. They're not scoring points. The one game that they scored points was against New England. The defense chipped in and they got busy. But from the most part, this is who the Saints have been. Even in their wins, they beat the Titans in week 1. I think it was 16-15, right? They were up 17-0 on the Packers and blew it and lost that game. Didn't score another point in that ball game. And I think they lost 18-17 or something to that effect. Like they haven't been scoring points this season. I'm at a loss. I think the Buccaneers came to their house, beat them 24-26-9 or something like they the inability to score has been mind-boggling because they have talent, right? But for some reason, they just can't find the end zone consistently. Let's check their red zone efficiency. 0 of 3 in the red zone, and that'll get you every time. And that was disappointing because I had them beating Houston. Meanwhile, credit has to be the Texans. They feel like the Giants from last year. First-year head coach coming into a situation that seems impossible. Growing pains have to be on the horizon, and somehow he's coming in and finding ways to win ball games immediately with a rookie quarterback who's playing exceptionally well. I was really impressed with Houston in this game. And, while we can talk about CJ Stroud, this was not a good CJ Stroud game. The defense is the story in Houston right now. They've come alive. CJ Stroud is obviously going to be the headline grabber because they're going to go as he goes. But their ability to play sound defense, get stops, create turnovers, that's going to be what gives the Texans a chance to compete in that AFC South division. I've been so impressed because early on this season, their defense wasn't good, but they've caught on. They understand what DeMeco Ryans is asking of them, and they're playing so much better now. And the offense is complementing them. And I knew they would kind of see a little downtick in offensive production because there's no Tank Dell, and he's such a huge part of what they do. But they still get it done, man, 20-13. And I just can't help but be impressed with what DeMeco Ryans is doing out there, what CJ Stroud is doing, and what this defense is doing. This is a dangerous Texans team. Like, they're going to compete all year long. And when it comes to the playoffs, they're going to be right there at the end. Will they make it? I don't know. I still think that AFC South is a one-bid division, but they're going to make it very interesting. That's for sure. They've already beaten Jacksonville, who leads that division at 4-2. And that was on the road at Jacksonville. So Jacksonville has to come to Houston. Don't sleep on these Texans. Meanwhile, the Saints have been a massive disappointment for me. They're 3-3 in a division that was supposed to be, theirs for the taking, essentially. The Falcons are 3-3. The Saints are 3-3. The Bucs are 3-2 after their loss to the Lions coming off of their bye week. And the Panthers are 0-6. That division is up for grabs. And I thought the Saints had a great opportunity to really put a stranglehold on this division this year by coming out fast. They shouldn't have lost to Green Bay. And I thought this was a game that they should have won as well, and they didn't. They got a quick turnaround, Thursday Night Football, a Jaguars team that's going to come in wounded. There may be no Trevor Lawrence in that game. If you can't beat the Trevor Lawrence list, Jacksonville Jaguars at home on Thursday Night Football, I'm done with the Saints. Patriots, Raiders. The Patriots stink. I've already documented that the Raiders went 1 of 6 in the red zone, which should have been their opportunity to win this game. Instead, they don't score enough points. They ultimately lose this game 21-17. This was the most unconventional 21 you'll probably see in your life. I think the Raiders kicked 5 field goals or 6 field goals and got a safety. Let me check the ledger here and see how this thing went. 1, 2, 3, 4 field goals, a touchdown, and a safety is how they got to 21 points in this game. Meanwhile, I'll say this: Mac Jones looks like a quarterback that is slowly losing whatever confidence he has left. He's missing easy throws. He's looking very skittish in the pocket. Jimmy Garoppolo left this game with a back injury. Billy Ho came in, finished the game, helped them get the victory. Both of these teams stink, if you want my honest opinion. The Raiders aren't good, but they're 3-3. But they're not very good. Let me look at their schedule real quick, see what they've got on the horizon. Because if they play anybody with any substance, I think they go south quick. They got the Lions next. Oh, they have the Bears next. So they're going to continue to have an opportunity to win games because they don't really play, that tough of a schedule. Bears, Lions, they're going to lose that game. Giants, they can beat them. Jets, they could win that game. Probably won't. Dolphins, Chiefs, Vikings, Chargers. I mean, Colts, Broncos. Like there's a lot of winnable games. They're not a good football team though, but the schedule is allowing them to stay alive, and they're taking the advantages. I got to give them credit for that. They win this football game. Mac Jones sacked in the end zone in a 19-17 game, takes a sack to pretty much end the game, as the Patriots always doing some creative shit. So they had a free kick after the safety. They had to kick it off to the, and your punter has to come out and punt it essentially. They punted it straight up in the air and forced the return man, and the guy kicked it in the air like 20 yards in the air, but it only went like 15 yards, right? So it's one of the up guys that you don't trust. And like 4 Patriots surrounded this one up guy and waited for him to catch it. And if he bobbled it or dropped it, they were going to mop him and try to recover it. It was pretty smart on their part. That was their form of an onside kick in that situation, because they obviously couldn't onside kick it because they had to give the Raiders a free kick. But man, Belichick is always doing some creative, innovative shit. They just stink on offense. But I will say this, Zeke Elliott looks like he's got a little bit more bounce to his step right now. He's got a little bit of juice. He had a touchdown, big touchdown catch and run called back due to a penalty. But he looked, and he scored, I think, their only touchdown of the game. I don't think they scored but one or two touchdowns. They might have scored 2 touchdowns. I think they scored 2 touchdowns. He scored one of them. And Ramondre Stevenson went down at one point in this game, and he came in, and I thought he played really well for him, but I digress. Lions, Bucks. This was another snooze fest, but I just love this Lions football team. They're physical, they're gritty, they're tough. And they're aggressive, in everything that they do. They remind me a lot of the Jets in the way that they're coached, in the way that they play, in their demeanor. The only difference is the Lions have a quarterback that they trust, and the Jets really don't at this current juncture. But this was just a gritty performance. Like going into this game, I talked about this from a record standpoint. This was the best combined record matchup we got in week 6. 4-1 Lions, 3-1 Bucks. Bucks coming off of their bye week. They donned the creamsicle uniforms. Oh my God. Chef's kiss. Those are always good to see. And I thought the color contrast in this game between the Bucks creamsicle and the Lions blue, oh my God. That was great, on the eyes. But Mike Evans continues to struggle. He had a big drop on a 3rd down in this game, but this was all about the Lions, and they're just physical, right? And you know what this game came down to as I watched it? How many times the Buccaneers surrendered a 1st down on 3rd and long? My guess is, and again, don't quote me on this, my guess is that the average down and distance on 3rd down for the Lions in this game, they probably averaged 3rd and 9 or 10 in this game. I saw some 3rd and 13s, a 3rd and 11, a 3rd and 10, a 3rd and 9. Like consistently, this is what they were facing, and they converted almost all of them. Let's go to the 3rd down stats, because watching this game, I know in the moment that's how I felt. Like they're converting, and it's not just 3rd and 3, 3rd and 6, which is where the Lions like to live. 3rd and manageable, 3rd and short. They were in 3rd and long. The Buccaneers did a great job on 1st and 2nd down, and then they would implode on 3rd and long. 9 of 16. I knew it. 9 of 16 in this game for the Detroit Lions. Meanwhile, the Bucs were 2 of 12, and that was the difference in the game. I mean, both of these teams struggled in the red zone, as I mentioned at the top of the show. Both were 0 of 2 in the red zone, but it was the inability of Tampa Bay to get off the field on 3rd and long that ultimately hurt them in this game. And so the Lions prevail 20-6, and they're off to their best start in God knows how long. They're 5-1. I don't think enough people realize they're tied with, and I told y'all last week, I wasn't ready to put them in that upper tier yet, but I thought they were getting close. Well, guess what? With losses to both the Eagles and the 49ers, they're all now 5-1. I'm now promoting the Lions to the upper tier. with the best of the NFC, the creme de la creme of the conference. They're playing exceptional football and look like one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFC. Don't want to crown them yet. I still think that title goes to San Francisco, but this Lions team is dangerous. Cardinals, Rams. This one was frustrating. If you're a Cardinals fan, you had every opportunity, man. Dobbs missed a wide open Hollywood Brown for a touchdown. Hollywood early in this ball game. And that kind of set the tone. You know, you missed opportunity there. They got into the red zone a bunch, I felt like, in this game. Let me check and see what they did in the red zone in this game. 0 of 3 for the Cardinals. There was one bad interception. Dobbs slightly behind the tight end on a play. He reaches back to try to one-hand it, tips it in the air. The linebacker that was in coverage picks it off. And that's the type of day it was for the Arizona Cardinals. They just couldn't get out of their own way. Meanwhile, the Rams were 2 of 5 in the red zone. So they weren't great themselves, but understand who your opponent is, take the points, and force them to beat you. That's what they did. Cooper Kupp didn't miss a beat. Last week, 8 catches, a buck and some change. This week, 7 catches, 148 yards. I mean, and a touchdown. This guy is ridiculous, man. He's just a machine. And this Rams team, who we didn't know what to make of them, they're 3-3, right? I still don't know what to make of this Rams team because I feel like when they play good football teams, they're overmatched. But if you put them up against a team even with them or inferior, they're going to find a way to win. And so we'll see what happens with this Rams team as the season progresses. But they have gotten back to 500 on the season at 3-3. The Cardinals dropped to 1-5. This was a very winnable game for the Cardinals, and they just didn't make enough plays. And then lastly, Eagles, Jets, the biggest upset. Now, this had to be the second biggest behind the 49ers losing to PJ Walker, but this is really close. The Eagles jumped out to a 14-3 lead and did not score a single point the remainder of the game after jumping out to a 14-3 lead early stages of the second quarter or mid stages of the second quarter, I believe it was. But if you're an Eagles fan, you're kicking yourself. And this is the type of stuff that I'm talking about because I thought their staff was a bit over-aggressive, took chances when they didn't need to. It kind of reminded me of when the Jets beat Buffalo in week 1. There were a lot of, unnecessary risks taken by Josh Allen in that game. Turnovers ensued. It kept a Jets team in the game that had no business being there, that needed those turnovers to help them find a way to win. And this kind of felt exactly like that game where if Philadelphia just says, hey, we're up in this game right now, 17-12. I think it was 14-12. Let's, on 3rd and 9, let's just throw a screen, see if we can pick up the first down. If not, keep the clock running, punt the ball, and make Zach Wilson have to complete 7 or 8 passes to get them into field goal range. I don't think that Eagles defense was starting to percolate. You had Hassan Reddick with 2 sacks in the game. They were getting after Zach Wilson. I felt like they could have gotten the stop that they needed, but they were over aggressive. They dropped back Hurts, who was harassed all game long, who had already thrown a couple of interceptions. They had already turned it over 3 times. I thought it was an unnecessary risk. They went for it on a 4th down in the red zone. Luckily, they got it. But that was again, know thy opponent. Take the points. I thought the Eagles were unnecessarily aggressive in this game, and it ultimately cost them when it was all said and done. Let's check out the red zone statistics. I know the Jets had ample opportunities. They were 1 of 4. It's amazing that they won this game, but the story of the game is the 4 turnovers. They forced 4 turnovers of this Eagles team. They did not turn it over themselves. This Eagles team was 7 of 14 on 3rd downs. They were moving the football. There were a drop or 2 in there that would have, potentially changed, how the Eagles went about business. They missed a chip shot field goal late in the game, and that's uncharacteristic of their kicker. What is it? Jake. Why am I blanking on his name? Jake. Shit. I'm about to get it now. Jake Elliott. So it's amazing to see them implode in this fashion, but I'm not surprised. I've said this already about the Eagles, and I just want to have a brief conversation before we move on to the Jets. I've said this about the Eagles. I feel adamant about this. When it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles, I think that they're better talent-wise this year on offense than they were a season ago. I firmly believe that. And excuse me, because they are right now lacking. My house is about to catch on fire. Hold on a second. All right. I think we're good now. So with the talent that they have, I think they should be more dynamic offensively, sort of like they were last year. I think they're missing their play caller on offense. I think they miss Shane Steichen. I think that's a real thing. Now, conversely, I think their defense isn't nearly as talented as it was last year. They miss Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. They miss Marcus Epps. They miss Avonte Maddox. They miss Kaiser White. They miss TJ Edwards. They miss, all of those players that were, Javon Hargrave. They miss those players on their defense. It's not as talented a defense. I think they're better coached defensively this year. They're starting to hit their stride defensively. Here's the difference. I think teams now are hip to what the Eagles like to do. I think that their offensive coordinator is struggling, and he's young. This is his first time doing it, so you understand some of the struggles. And I want to see what this defense looks like next week against the Dolphins, because the Eagles really haven't been tested off. When they got their probably their biggest test this season, they failed miserably against Washington. Washington put up 31 points, and you could argue the Vikings were a really good test, and they forced turnovers. And if not for those turnovers, the Vikings turned it over 3 or 4 times, and they still scored 28 points. So I look at this Eagles defense. I'm not sold on them yet, but I think they're being coached better than they were a season ago, because I don't think they're as talented this year as they were last year. And I think that offense is underachieving right now because they don't have their same play caller from a season ago. We'll see what happens. This is a big game because the Eagles have been talking about winning and winning ugly and finding ways to win, and they haven't hit their stride yet. And I proposed something to the Eagles fans last week. What if this is your best? Like, obviously, you're not playing your best football. You shouldn't be, at least in October. But what if this is who you are? You ever thought about that? And I know they can't wrap their brains around that because no one's trying to hear that this is the best they can be in October. But what if this is who you are this season? What if there isn't an elite gene with you this year? I don't know. We'll find out. We'll see. The stretch of football that the Eagles are about to embark upon is what champions are made of. We're going to find out if they're championship caliber or if they're contenders or pretenders. We're going to find out about the Eagles over the next 6 to 7 weeks. We'll find out a lot about this Eagles team because the NFL set them up for success with their schedule. Set them up for success. Unlike the Steelers or the 49ers, who have gone through the gauntlet to kind of get to where they are, they haven't played anybody really, have the Eagles. So now we're going to find out, and we're going to see how good this Eagles team is. The Jets, what more can I say about the Jets? Really impressed with what they've been able to do, despite no Aaron Rodgers, finding ways to win, highly competitive against the Chiefs, finding a way to beat the Broncos last week, finding a way to win this game against the Eagles, finding a way to beat the Bills in week 1. They, even in their losses, they've been highly competitive, outside of the Cowboys game. That was the one that got away from them, but they've been in just about all of these games. And Zach Wilson's gaining confidence. He understands. Okay. He he is gaining confidence. You can see that he's starting to understand what this team needs from him. They don't need him to be Superman. Just don't turn it over. Make timely throws. If we got to kick field goals, this defense is legit. That's a conversation that I think we need to have. Who's the best defense in the NFL? Because I think there are a couple of units that need to be in that conversation. Obviously, this Jets unit is really good. The 49ers are really good. The Browns are really good. Dallas is really good. Like, there's some serious defensive. The Bengals are another team that's really good, especially when they get into the red zone. There's some teams that belong in that discussion when we're talking about, putting clamps down on the opposition and not giving up a ton of points. And this Jets defense is right there, man. And they've seen, like their head coach said, they've gone through the gauntlet already of quarterbacks in this league, the best of the best, the creme de la creme. They've seen most of those guys, Allen and Mahomes and Hurts, and they've navigated that stretch of the schedule really well. I mean, they've gone 2 out of 3. They've won 2 out of those 3 games against those quarterbacks, and I think the Chiefs had some very generous calls that allowed them to win that game a couple of weeks ago on Sunday Night Football. So, Robert Saleh said after the game, we've gone through the gauntlet and we've embarrassed pretty much all of those quarterbacks. Cowboys fans got all in their feelings and was, tweeting out all kinds of statistics and they didn't dominate us and Dak did this and that to them. And I'm like, pipe down. He was talking about elite quarterbacks. Dak doesn't qualify. Relax. He wasn't talking about you. He was talking about Allen, Mahomes, Hurts, and those guys, not Dak Prescott. That's what he was talking about. Relax. Anyway, big win for the Jets. Did you see Salah jump into the arms of the GM? What the hell is his name? Oh, man. Joe Douglas. Did you see that? Oh, man, that's priceless stuff. They're playing with confidence. Again, they strike me, the Jets strike me as the Lions of the AFC. Like, fully capable of winning defensively. And they're tough, they're gritty, they take on the personality of their head coach, and they don't give a shit. They didn't have their 2 starting corners. No Sauce Gardner, no DJ Reed, no problem. They dominated that game defensively. 4 forced turnovers against this Eagles offense, and they got some help. The Eagles did some special shit in this game, but their guys stepped up and played ball in the absence of their 2 starting corners. That's phenomenal work. Phenomenal work. Anyway, I digress. Big win for the Jets. They're 3-3. I mean, and it's fostering rumors of Aaron Rodgers potentially. There's no way he's playing football this year. You guys put a sock in it. There's no way, he's playing football this year. That's crazy talk, if you ask me. But they're keeping that conversation alive by continuing to find ways to win. And don't look now, but the Jets are back to 500. Eagles' first loss of the season. We'll see how they bounce back on Sunday Night Football against the Miami Dolphins. That's going to do it for Slate Skatin. I appreciate you guys strapping up the skates, kicking it with the kid, going around the National Football League in week number 6. Now, let's talk about Thursday Night Football this week and get a little quick preview of that and get to these super chats that exist, and then we will get out of here. So Thursday Night Football is going to feature 2 teams that right now are interesting, to say the least. The 4-2 Jaguars are heading to New Orleans to take on the 3-3 Saints. Trevor Lawrence got hurt late, and I remember watching this play, and I kid you not, I swear to you guys, I'm watching that Jags game, and Trevor Lawrence is rolling out to his left, trying to outrun a defender who's chasing him from behind. And he gets tackled, and I immediately say those are the kinds of hits that you get hurt on. His knee immediately strikes the ground, right? As he's running, guy grabs him by his ankles, and you can't really brace yourself. The first thing that hits the ground is your knees, and you bang your knee down. And I've done that, and I actually have a crack right behind my knee, right? So I know how that shit feels. And then he gets up limping, right? Well, he doesn't get up, and he's writhing in pain. And then, and I was saying to myself, they were already up like 37-20 at that point. Like, why is he even, in that position? Like, they should be turning around, handing it off, and just trying to get out of here and end this game. But, it's football. Shit happens. So now he's in question for Thursday night football. And if he can't go, I just don't see the Jags winning. I don't even know who their backup quarterback is. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't even know who would be coming in for them. I got to imagine it's somebody that knows Doug Peterson's system, that was with him either in Philadelphia or at one of his other stops. I'm actually curious now. I'm going to go check and see who is the backup quarterback on that Jaguars roster. Because it's got to be like a vet. I doubt it's a young guy. It's probably some kind of wily vet that they trust. CJ beat hard. So, yeah. Okay. He's not winning shit. So, if he can't play on Thursday, I can't see them going into New Orleans and winning with CJ Beathard. But this Saints team is such an enigma. I don't even know anymore. I don't know what to make of the Saints. I don't know what Saints team is going to show up from week to week. I thought that they had enough offensive weaponry to put points on the board, yet every week I look up, they're struggling to crack 20. I thought the receivers would be better. I thought Juwan Johnson, is he hurt? I haven't seen him. I thought, if I was a fantasy guy, Juwan Johnson would have been one of the guys that I would have been like, yo, I'm going to take Juwan Johnson because I think people sleeping on him at the tight end position. They're going to get him the football. He's going to be a problem. And I don't think I've seen him at all this season, and I really don't know what the hell is going on because Derek Carr loves him some tight end, right? But I don't know. I don't even know if this dude if he's hurt or what's going on with him. He's probably hurt. He's got to be hurt because I've seen a lot of Foster Moreau, which isn't a bad thing, but Juwan Johnson was supposed to be that dude. So, Michael Thomas has had a minimal impact. Rashid Shaheed has been a breath of fresh air. He's been outstanding, and Chris Olave has been really good. I'm really disappointed that they haven't been able to generate more offense, score more points, and be more effective. I've actually been pretty shocked at their inability to be a more productive offense. Let's see. Yeah, he hasn't played since week 3 against the Green Bay Packers. So he's banged up, but they're struggling. This is my last stand with the Saints, especially if Lawrence plays and they tell me he's good, then we're going to be okay. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, I digress. I'm taking the Saints on Thursday if Lawrence is out. If Lawrence plays, I still think I'm going to roll with the Saints, though, because he can't be, fully healthy. And I think that Saints defense may be able to get to him. Smack City, been a member for 17 months. Writes 11-4 on winners and losers. It's lonely at the top. Enjoy it while you can. Life comes at you fast. Ask LB. JLG. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, we're noticing a few of the older / veteran coaches struggling. Is there a changing of the guard where they may be replaced with their young assistants? I don't know about that, but the NFL isn't necessarily a place for older coaches who don't do a good enough job of adapting and changing to the ever-changing climate in the NFL. If you're one of these young, vibrant coaches or older coaches who still, got a ton of zest and life for the game, and you're open to change, then you'll have a chance to stick around. But if you've got this old curmudgeon way of looking at things and old man get off my lawn approach, you're going to continue to struggle. You're going to struggle, and you're going to find yourself being replaced by a young assistant. So we'll see what happens. But I see a lot of teams struggling offensively. So it is what it is. Cruising 26, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Cruising 26 writes, our game against you guys is our get right game. It's too late for y'all to get right. Even if you beat us, you're still dead. Okay. There's no get right game for you guys. You had an opportunity to beat either Seattle or Buffalo. You needed to beat one of those two teams to keep your season somewhat alive. You can't beat Philadelphia and you can't beat Dallas. So even if you found a way to beat us twice, you're still dead because you're 1-5. So get right. I mean, look, no one likes to lose, and you've got to have something to hold on to. Cruising 26, you're dying for a win. I'm looking to kill you. Okay, you're already dead, pretty much on life support. I'm looking to pull out all the tubes, all the breathing machine, all of that shit. I'm looking to make sure that your body is as cold as 2-day-old broccoli, sitting out on the counter. I'm looking to make sure that your ass is just as dead as you can be after this game. But we know how the Commanders operate, and we know how we let teams slide. Like I said, you haven't scored in the first half, haven't scored a touchdown. That'll end. You've been thoroughly outscored in first halves. That probably will change this week, but doesn't mean you're going to win the game. I expect to beat you. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, I love the fact that the Giants fans are still holding on to hope that they can beat us. That's their claim to fame. That's why I said we were going to bust their shit twice this year, because they still hanging on to that. So now we got to bust their shit. I was starting to feel just a tinge of sympathy for them. Now I want to bust their shit, since guys like Cruising still holding on. Oh, we can beat Washington. Okay, we're going to bust their ass. I'm trying to bust their ass. So anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the Louie T Network podcast. I appreciate you guys kicking it with the kid. Look forward to chopping it up with you guys later on in the week. 6 weeks already gone, a third of the season in the books. Before we know it, we'll be at Thanksgiving, and we'll be talking about 2/3 of the season done and gone. So this happens quick. Enjoy it while you got it. You know how this goes. Anyway, I digress. I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. I appreciate you guys kicking it with the kid. Look forward to chopping it up with you guys in the future. Y'all take care. God bless, and good night.